Hi and welcome everyone. This is the Hobo Prepper and I am Friar Tuck. Okay, so this week during our constitutional class, we are going to be talking about the Fourth Amendment. And the Fourth Amendment is essentially your right to be secure in your persons, to be protected from unrightful or illegal search and seizure. Now, there are a lot of facets to this and there are a lot of different things to this, but you as an individual, you do have certain rights. But the thing is that most people, including myself until recently, didn't fully understand how to be able to enforce this. And so I want to share with you guys some basic things about the Fourth Amendment and just kind of give you an overview so that should you ever come into contact and you want to be able to protect yourself or at least enforce your rights, because as preppers or as travelers, you want to be able to enforce your rights, especially your constitutional rights. And this can be complicated at times. So let's talk about two main terms. Okay, we've got probable cause, and then we have reasonable suspicion. Okay, so when you're walking down the street. Okay, now they do have things it's called a suspect class. So one of the things that I've always been, trying to figure out is why do they say that the police are racist and that the police are this and that and the other? And part of it is because of how the Supreme Court and how the legal system looks at what they call a suspect class. Now, they generally consider the poor and the less fortunate to be automatically part of the suspect class, which in a lot of ways is discrimination, but it's not a protected class, under civil rights. Okay, so this is just a way for police officers to justify their ability to be able to stop you. Okay, so if you are, carrying a backpack and you're in an area where everybody's wearing a backpack, is homeless, then you might get lumped in with being homeless, and it might actually, put you into this suspect class. But you're a traveler; you have the right to travel, in and outside of areas, and you have these rights. Now, that's not enumerated in the Constitution, but it is something that has been considered part of your rights altogether. Okay, so when something happens, okay, let's just say you're walking down the road and a police officer just comes up and stops you. Now, what they can do is they have reasonable suspicion. So whether you realize it or not, you got a pack on, you are part of a suspect class. So therefore, they can pull over and check you. Now, if you're in a high crime area, they have a little bit of different rules that apply. There are a lot of different facets to it, but this is just again a basic overview to that. So when they stop you, they have a reasonable suspicion. So what they have to do under a reasonable suspicion is that they start to investigate. Now, at this point in time, you don't have to identify yourself. They can ask you questions like, "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" Things like this, and you can choose to answer them, or you can invoke the Fifth Amendment, which is not to incriminate oneself. Okay, which is something that you can do, and there are some lawyers that strongly recommend that that whenever you're asked a question by the police officer, with the exception of a few things, you always just invoke the Fifth, because you're not really trying to assist the police officer in doing their job. It is their job to have already know what it is that they're doing. Okay, so you get stopped as you're traveling through an area. Like if you watch the movie Rambo, he was walking through with a backpack. They automatically considered him a vagrant, and so therefore the sheriff pulls over, stops him, starts harassing him. Okay, and so at this point in time, what they're looking for is they're trying to find out if you've committed a crime. Once they realize through their preliminary investigation, because this is the beginning of due process and the beginning of the legal process. So before you even reach a judge, you're dealing with an officer. An officer is going to charge you, arrest you, so on and so forth. At that point in time, you have begun a legal process. So you need to be able to take that approach when you are dealing with a police officer. Is that it is a legal process. It's not just you're talking to another individual. Okay, and so if you're treating it like that, then you will be able to protect yourself a little bit more. So once they realize that okay, there is probable cause, that there's more than just a reasonable suspicion, which means something more than a gut feeling, like they pull you over, they smell marijuana in your car, or you're swerving, or you're going with your lights off. That takes it from a reasonable suspicion to probable cause, that they believe that you might be under the influence of something, whether it be drugs or alcohol. Okay, and so at that point in time, now they have the ability to do an even further discussion, but you still don't have to consent to a search and seizure of your property. Why? Because they have not arrested or detained you. So at this point in time, once they realize, and they start asking you for identification, you need to start asking, am I being detained or am I free to go? Because if unless they have probable cause, you are under reasonable suspicion, and you have the right to leave at any point in time. And if they give you the right to leave, then you have the ability to leave. But then if they don't, then you should ask them, what is your probable cause? What is it that you're suspecting me of doing? And then at that point in time, you can communicate back and forth. Let's say they say, oh, well, I smell this. It's like, well, how do you know what this smells like? What is it that's giving you the reasonable suspicion, or why is it that you think that this is happening? Okay, and so this allows you to communicate back and forth, and maybe even stop a citation or stop this thing from escalating, because an officer does not have to. Since 2013, one of the things that Obama did was that he made it so that government officials are legally allowed to lie to you. So they don't have to tell you everything. They can mislead you. They can entrap you, and things like this. So this is up to you to know where you stand, so that you're not being entrapped, or you are not incriminating yourself, or doing these things. So once they get to a point where they have detained you and arrested you, at that point in time, then they have the ability to search your person and your belongings. Now that takes there are certain bars that have to be met in order for that to happen. So if you ever get into a situation where you're dealing with an officer, you need to figure out, one, what is their reasonable suspicion? Did somebody make a report? Are you doing something? It really boils down to conduct. What was your conduct that you did in order for them to have reasonable suspicion to start an investigation, to see the possibility of a crime? Once they see the possibility of a crime, then you have to figure out what it is that they're seeing as the crime, and then to be able to diffuse the situation from there. Because if you didn't commit a crime, or if they're just doing it because you are what they consider a suspect class, well, then that's discrimination, and that's a violation of your due process. And at this point in time, you may still have to go through. They may still arrest you. They may still search your stuff. But all of this stuff will later on, as you go through the legal process with the judge, because the judge is the referee. The judge is going to sit there, and he's going to make sure that the officer did his job right. He's going to listen to what the prosecutor has to say, and then he's going to listen to your side of the story, and then he's going to figure out, based upon what the prosecutor and the officer said and versus what you said, what is the right course of action. So you will have to wait until you get in front of a judge. So let's just say that you have no reasonable no probable cause, because this has happened before, where a guy was on a Greyhound bus and the cops just come through and they just start searching everybody's bags. Well, they ended up finding a kilo of coke in this guy's bag, but because they had no reasonable suspicion, they were going through with drug dogs, and they did not have a warrant to be able to search the guy's property, that kilo of cocaine was not actually admissible in court, and so the guy was able to get off. Okay, and these are little things, little nuances, because the thing about the government and the police is, if you hold them to a high standard, that they have to do everything right, that they have to do things appropriately, then it makes it safe for you, it makes it safe for me, and it means that these guys are doing their job properly. And this is an officer you should give a pat on the back to, congratulate them, say great job, thank you for doing your job appropriately. It's the officers and the government officials that are not doing their job properly, that are using their power to be able to harass and intimidate a group or section of people that these rights are really there to protect for. Okay, so this is just something that will hopefully help you understand not only what your rights are, where you stand, and kind of how to be able to navigate the situation should you ever get in this situation where you come in contact with a government official and you have to protect yourself. Because our founding fathers and the people that founded this country, in a lot of ways, I mean, you could really look at them, they were criminals. They were rebelling against the government. It was a civil war, and because they won the civil war, it became called a revolution instead of a civil war. But in a lot of ways, they were criminals, and so they wanted to make sure that those that were coming after them were doing it in an appropriate manner that was fair and ethical. Because just because the government makes something illegal doesn't mean it's necessarily illegal. It just means that they've decided that you should or should not do things like this. And it's up to you and your person to kind of to dictate your own morals and your own values. Okay, now I know that this may seem a little vague and a little bit around, but this is the best explanation that I can give you as an individual to help you understand where you stand and how to be able to enforce your constitutional rights. And especially under the Fourth Amendment, which I think is the most important amendment that we have next to the right to free speech. Because that in it so many ways is because today you have something that is not illegal, but tomorrow they deem it illegal. Well, now something that was normal or part of your culture in your area is now being criminalized. And it's a way to be able to protect yourself as you go about and do your own things, because you want to be free. You want to be able to do your own things and be responsible for your own actions. But in order to be responsible for your own actions, you need to know how to enforce the rights that you have that protect you, that allow you to be able to operate as a freeborn citizen. So if you like this information, you can leave a tip in the tip jar. You can upgrade your tier to the Triple Crown from the Constitutional class. You can do several things to be able to help the channel out financially. I would love to hear your comments, what you think about this, and kind of how you feel about this. So go ahead and leave me a comments down in the comments section, and I look forward to reading them. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.